Good morning, students. Welcome back to your English literature class. Today, we are going to begin the play Merchant of Venice, which is written by a well-known writer, William Shakespeare. Let us see what are the objectives of this video. By the end of this video, you will be able to understand the summary of complete play. You will be able to identify various characters and their role in the play. Let us know about the writer of the play. Students, William Shakespeare was an English playwright, poet, and actor widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's greatest dramatist. He is often called England's national poet. He is the master of characterization. He gives his characters substance and life. By his little master strokes of observation, Shakespeare brings his characters to life. Now students, write down the meanings of difficult words. Playwright, one who writes plays. Characterization, the creation or construction of a fictional character. Substance, quality of being important. Students, William Shakespeare is a well-known writer who is known for his writings. Many people believe that he is the best British writer of all time. He wrote blockbuster plays of his day. Some of his famous writings are Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, and Merchant of Venice is one of them. Students, let us know what language Shakespeare has used in writing this play. Students, as you begin to read the opening scenes of a Shakespeare play, you may notice occasional unfamiliar words. Some are unfamiliar simply because they are no longer in use. Most of his vocabulary is still in use, and many of his words now have meanings quite different from those they had in the 16th and 17th centuries. For example, "tis" means it is, "hath" means has, "oft" means often, "thou" means you. Students, you will find these words written in the play Merchant of Venice. It is a style of language which is no longer in everyday use, and we call these words archaic words. Before we proceed, you must understand the difference between a play and a story. Students, plays are divided into acts, and acts are further divided into scenes. Whereas a story is a text which is divided into chapters. Students, in play, a set of actors perform over a written script, performing and speaking dialogues which can be visually seen. On the other hand, in story, no character performs, so readers have to be imaginative. But remember students, their imagination is limited. Story can be imaginative or based on truth. Plays are given limited time depending on the structure of the play, whereas stories can be read at any time. We can see and hear light and music on the stage in the play, but it is not in the stories. Now students, let us discuss what type of play is it. Students, Merchant of Venice is a love story which leads to a happy ending. The central story is the wooing of Portia, and her love appears more disinterested than that of Bassanio. But there is also the love of Antonio for Bassanio. Students, the theme of love and friendship is a dual one. The problem which arises is the danger of exacting of the bond which had not appeared a serious transaction at first. There is danger and suspense both in the casket scene and the trial scene before the problems are solved. Students, Write down the meanings of difficult words. Wooing. Try to gain the love of someone, especially with the view to marriage. Exacting. Challenging. Transaction. Deal. Trial. Court case. Students, Merchant of Venice is a romantic comedy which has a happy ending. Two stories are running at the same time. When one story shows the selfless love of two friends for each other and the danger of the bond signed by Antonio. The other plot is related to Bassanio and Portia's love story and the choice of caskets. Now students, let us discuss the summary in detail. A young Venetian, Bassanio, needs a loan of 3,000 ducats so that he can woo Portia, a wealthy heiress. He approaches his friend Antonio, a merchant. Antonio is short of money because all his wealth is invested in his fleet, which is currently at sea. He goes to a Jewish moneylender, Shylock, who hates Antonio because of Antonio's anti-Semitic behavior towards him. Students, write down the meanings of difficult words. Venetian, native of Venice. Ducats, gold coin formerly used in the most European countries. Woo, try to gain love with a view to marriage. Heiress, a woman inheriting and continuing legacy of a predecessor. Approaches, talks to. Fleet, a group of ships sailing together. Anti-Semitic, prejudiced against Jewish people. Students, this play revolves around the life of a Venetian, Bassanio, who is an extravagant person who loves to live a luxurious life. He falls in love with a rich lady Portia, and to woo her, he asks his best friend Antonio to lend him 3,000 ducats. But students, at the same time, Antonio has spent his money on his ships in sea. So he approaches a Jewish bloodsucker moneylender, Shylock, to lend him the desired amount, that is 3,000 ducats. Shylock nevertheless agrees to make the short-term loan. But he makes a condition. The loan must be repaid in 3 months or Shylock will exact a pound of flesh from Antonio. Antonio agrees, confident that his ships will return in time. Write down the meaning of a difficult word. Exact, take. Students, Shylock is not on good terms with Antonio. But to take revenge, he agrees to lend him the money for a short period of time, that is 3 months. He also lays a condition that if Antonio doesn't pay back the amount within the time, he will take a pound of flesh from any part of Antonio's body. Even Antonio agrees to sign such a bond, as he is sure to get his ships back on the shore with profit before the time, and he is sure that he will be able to pay 3,000 ducats to Shylock before time. Because of the terms of Portia's father's will, all suitors must choose from among 3 caskets, one of which contains a portrait of her. If he chooses that, he may marry Portia. But if doesn't, he must vow never to marry or court another woman. The princes of Morocco and Aragon fail the test and are rejected. As Bassanio prepares to travel to Belmont for the test, his friend Lorenzo elopes with Shylock's daughter Jessica. Bassanio chooses the lead casket which contains her picture, and Portia happily agrees to marry him immediately. Write down the meanings of difficult words. Suitors, a man who seeks to marry a girl. Caskets, boxes. Portrait, painting. Elopes, runs away. Students, On the other side, in Belmont, Portia's father, on his death, has left her a large fortune. Thus, Portia has both beauty and wealth. Portia's father has laid down a strange condition in his will. Anyone who wants to marry Portia has to choose from 3 caskets of gold, silver, and lead, the one which contains a message that Portia is his. Suitors from all corners of the world come to try their luck at the casket. The Prince of Morocco is the first person to try his luck. He chooses the gold casket and finds in it a skull and mocking message. The second suitor is the Prince of Aragon. He chooses the silver casket and finds to his dismay the portrait of a blinking idiot in it. Many suitors come to try their luck. Bassanio also visits Belmont to test his luck. Bassanio chooses the correct casket, that is, lead casket, and finds portrait of Portia in it, and is happily married to Portia. Meanwhile, Bassanio receives a letter in which it is written that Antonio's ships have been rigged. There Shylock has filed petition in the Duke's court claiming a pound of Antonio's flesh. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, they rush through the marriage ceremonies. Immediately after this, Portia sends Bassanio and Gratiano to Venice with sufficient money to repay the loan. Portia follows him accompanied by her maid Nerissa. Students, write down the meanings of difficult words. Wrecked, destroyed. Accompanied, go somewhere with someone as a companion. Students, as Bassanio chooses the right casket, all are elated. But here, Bassanio receives a bad news that Antonio's ships have been wrecked and he has failed to repay Shylock back. There Shylock finds a chance to take revenge from Antonio and filed a case in court against Antonio. Duke appeals Shylock to show some mercy on Antonio, but he refuses to do so. Students, Duke is a male ruler of the highest rank. Shylock wants to take a pound of flesh from any part of Antonio's body. Students, when Portia came to know about all this, she married to Bassanio and immediately sent him to Venice. Students, after this, Portia also follows them along with her maid Nerissa. When Bassanio arrives, the date for the repayment to Shylock has passed, and Shylock is demanding his pound of flesh. Even when Bassanio offers much more than the amount in repayment, Shylock, now infuriated by the loss of his daughter, is intent on seeking revenge on the Christians. The Duke refuses to intervene. Students, write down the meanings of difficult words. Infuriated, made angry. Intent on, giving attention and effort on one task. Intervene, interfere. Students, in Venice, the situations get worsen. And Shylock is angry as his daughter Jessica ran away with Bassanio's friend Lorenzo, who is also a Christian. And at this point, Shylock only wants to take revenge from Antonio by taking a pound of flesh from any part of his body. Here Duke tries to calm him down, but when Shylock refuses to do so, Duke takes himself out of the matter. Portia arrives in her disguise to defend Antonio. Given the authority of judgment by the Duke, Portia decides that Shylock can have the pound of flesh as long as he doesn't draw blood, as it is against the law to shed a Christian's blood. Since It is obvious that to draw a pound of flesh would kill Antonio. Shylock is denied his suit. Moreover, for conspiring to murder a Venetian citizen, Portia orders that he should forfeit all his wealth. Half is to go to Venice and half to Antonio. Students, write down the meanings of difficult words. Conspiring, plotting or planning. Forfeit, lose as penalty or fine. Students, Portia dressed herself as a lawyer, and after taking permission from the Duke, she worked as a lawyer for Antonio in the court. With her wit and wisdom, she saves Antonio and turns the table on Shylock. She tells Shylock to take a pound of flesh without shedding a single drop of blood from his body. Students, which is not possible. At last, Shylock loses all his wealth as a fine, as a penalty, because he plans to kill a Christian or a Venetian on the land of Venice. Half of his property goes to the state of Venice, to the government, and half goes to Antonio as a compensation. Antonio gives his half back to Shylock on the condition that Shylock will bequeath it to his disinherited daughter Jessica. Shylock must also convert to Christianity. A broken Shylock accepts the conditions. News arrives that Antonio's remaining ships have returned safely. With the exception of Shylock, all celebrate a happy ending to the affair. Students, write down the meanings of difficult words. Bequeath, pass on, or to give it to someone. Disinherited, take other steps to prevent from inheriting one's property. Exception, act of accepting or not including someone. Students, Antonio doesn't take Shylock's property. Even he gives it back to Shylock. But the only condition is that he will pass this property to his daughter Jessica. Another punishment for Shylock is to convert his religion to Christianity. Later on, a good news arrives that Antonio's ships are safe and they have arrived back. Everyone except Shylock celebrates at the end. I hope, students, the summary of the story is clear to all of you. Now we will proceed towards the characters of our story. Now let us understand the play through this mapping. Students, Antonio. Antonio is the main character of this play, Merchant of Venice. Students, Antonio is a rich merchant of Venice who is a Christian. He is a kind-hearted man who gives money to people without charging any interest. He hates Shylock. Students, now who is Shylock? Shylock is a Jew who is a cruel bloodsucker money lender. Students, he lends money at high rates of interest. Students, there is enmity between Antonio and Shylock, as Antonio is a Christian and Shylock is a Jew. Moreover, Antonio helps his Christian friends by giving them money without charging any interest, whereas Shylock lends money by charging high rate of interest. Antonio's way of lending money has affected Shylock's business badly. Now, let us see the next character of our play, Jessica. Students, Jessica is Shylock's daughter. She eloped with a Christian named Lorenzo, who is a Christian and Antonio's and Bassanio's good friend. Students, eloped means ran away. Now students, the another most important character of this play is Bassanio, who is a very good friend of Antonio. He is an extravagant person who loves to live a lavish life. Children, he is in need of money to go to Belmont to woo Portia and marry her. Now the question arises, who is Portia? Students, Portia is a rich heiress of Belmont, whose father on his death has devised a lottery of caskets, that is, if any suitor who will choose the right casket will marry her. So children, Bassanio wants to go to Belmont to woo Portia. For this, he needs 3,000 ducats. Bassanio asks his best friend Antonio for the money. But Antonio doesn't have any ready money. So he takes money from Shylock. Here Shylock gets a chance to take revenge from Antonio. He laid a condition that Antonio has to sign a bond according to which if Antonio will not be able to pay back his money within 3 months, he will take a pound of flesh. Students, here Shylock will take a pound of flesh from Antonio's any part of body. Bassanio, who is a good friend to Antonio, tells him not to sign such a deadly bond. But Antonio agrees to do so as he is sure that he will repay the money within 3 months. But later in the play, students, we came to know that he becomes a bankrupt and the bond was forfeited. That is, he has to pay a penalty, which is a pound of flesh to Shylock according to the bond. After this, Bassanio takes money and goes to Belmont with his friend Gratiano. Students, Gratiano is a talkative, good-humored young gentleman and a very good friend to Bassanio. In Belmont, Bassanio chooses the right casket and marries Portia, and Gratiano marries Nerissa. Students, Nerissa is Portia's waiting lady, that is her maid. Immediately after getting married, Bassanio left for Venice as the bond signed between Antonio and Shylock has been forfeited. And Shylock has filed a case against Antonio in the court of Venice. Portia disguises herself as a lawyer and Nerissa as her clerk. She enters in the court and saves Antonio with her wits and wisdom from the clutches of Shylock. I hope students you have understood the story properly. This brings us to the end of today's session. Your homework for today is to read and revise the summary of the play. Thank you.